Sons of the Forest is a superb addition to the survival horror genre. It does a lot of things better than any other game of a similar vein, which says a lot considering End Night is a small indie team. But that doesn't mean that everything is perfect. There are a few details that stretch the definition of realistic. Not that that's necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes you need to make compromises for the sake of making the gameplay fun and managing the overall workability of the mechanics. But at the same time, I thought it'd be fun to talk about 10 details in Sons of the Forest that make no sense, but we all just accept. Starting off at number 10. Sprinting up hills is surprisingly easy, when in real life it is certainly not. I mean, that's just gotta be murder on the thighs. And I know the character you play as is supposed to be an elite soldier of some kind, but everyone experiences muscle fatigue. You'd think a 45-degree incline would slow you down a little bit, but not this guy. He just plows his way up, backpack filled with rocks and everything else. Doesn't even break a sweat. Again, not that I'm complaining. This is obviously for the sake of convenience, and it would get quite tedious if every time you wanted to climb a hill, your stamina just rapidly depleted. But give this man a break by the fire and just let him rest those weary legs. I know he's going to be feeling it the next day. Number 9. Now, I'm no engineer, but I do know a thing or two about wood, and there's a pretty good reason why we don't build skyscrapers out of logs. They can only hold so much weight before buckling under the pressure. But not in this game. As far as I'm aware, there is pretty much no limit to how high you can build, so you can stack logs in a tower until your heart's content. Never will it waver, unless acted upon by an outside force. Pretty impressive considering they're not even jointed or nailed or anything. They're just logs gently placed upon other logs, and they stay as if they were cemented in place. Number 8. This island is pretty damn big, and maybe that's an understatement, but there is a never-ending supply of cannibals and mutants that want to murder you, or at the very least mess up your house. It doesn't matter how many times you wipe out their camps, or take out a group of scouts, they just keep coming. Maybe there's a lore reason for this that I'm not aware of. I know that the cube creates the mutants, or brings them through from another dimension. Not sure exactly on the details, but you would think that their numbers would start to dwindle. But the more you kill, the more they appear. I guess they just breed like rabbits. But again, this game would lose its fun factor if you killed every last cannibal, and never had to worry about them again. Number 7. This one involves two of my favorite mechanics in Sons of the Forest, the sled and the hang glider. Both of these items make traversing this huge island much easier. Well, one more so than the other. But it is sort of funny how you take absolutely no fall damage from either of these things no matter how fast you're going or how hard you crash into the ground. You can take the glider from the top of the mountain, plunge down, hit terminal velocity and smack into the ground like a lawn dart, and walk away like nothing happened. Same goes for the sled. Slam into a tree at 60 miles per hour. That'd be like getting into a horrific car accident with no seatbelt and nothing. Just a normal day, and I honestly wouldn't have it any other way. Number 6. This one is pretty simple, but it's mind-blowing how much stuff you can hold in a single backpack. This is a pretty much full inventory, and if I had to make an estimate, I would say this weighs somewhere north of 500 pounds. 1,000 coins, hundreds of rolls of duct tape, it all adds up. It's quite a lot to be toting around on your back at all times. Makes your character's ability to sprint up hills even more impressive. Obviously this isn't realistic, but it certainly works for making the gameplay and crafting a lot more convenient. Number 5. Every cave in this game has a convenient way out. What I mean is, you will never find yourself trapped in an inescapable situation. And why would you? It's a game after all, and that would take the fairness and fun right out of it. But realistically, people die all the time from being lost or trapped in caves. Both above water and underwater. It's terrifying to even think about, but it does happen. Where in this game, when you enter a cave, you'll either hit a point where there's nowhere to go but back the way you came, or you end up finding an alternate exit back to the surface. You can always kind of feel when you hit this point, and it gives you a sort of, here's the gift shop, thanks for riding, sort of feeling on your way out. Number 4. Axes never get dull. Doesn't matter which axe you use, it always stays as sharp as it ever was. Cut down 5 trees, 10 trees, 50 trees, hack off the limbs of numerous cannibals, it's as sharp as ever. I think it would actually be really interesting to have a sharpening mechanic added to the game. Like over time your axe does indeed get dull, and maybe it doesn't become totally useless, but just less effective, and there could be a sharpening stone that you could find in a cave, or a grinding wheel that you could craft to bring that edge back and hone the sharpness. Could be fun. Number 3. Logs are all the exact same length and circumference. If you've played Sons of the Forest for more than 5 minutes, I'm sure you've noticed that there's skinny trees, there's fat trees, short trees, and tall trees. All the same, when you chop them down, they magically yield logs of the exact same length and thickness. Makes no sense whatsoever from a realistic standpoint, but it makes all the difference when it comes to building. The building mechanics as they are simply wouldn't work, or at the very least be downright frustrating, if you had to constantly sort through a pile of logs looking for one of the correct thickness. Number 2. Another quirk with logs and gravity. Logs can inexplicably ride up a zip line. As far as I can tell, there is no mechanism in this zip line that's pushing these logs upwards. They just defy physics and head up to wherever the zip line leads. Even the most extreme angles are no match for these logs' tenacious spirit. This is obviously just the developers throwing the player a bone in the name of fun. A little bit of stretched logic is a small price to pay for convenience. The same goes for the player as well. You can ride up some pretty extreme angles like there's an unrelenting force pushing you upwards. Makes no sense, but that's what this list is all about. So before I get to number 1, this one is an endgame spoiler, so if you haven't already completed the game and don't want it spoiled for you, click away now. You have been warned. And if you're enjoying this video, consider subscribing. It really helps me out. I'm a small channel just trying to grow, and I'm always putting out new fun videos on a variety of different games. Alright, back to it. Number 1. Virginia and Kelvin making it into the cube in a nick of time. That's right, when you enter the mystical cube to end the game, Kelvin and Virginia both enter right behind you. Well, if they're still alive and like you enough anyway. The point is, how the hell did they get here? They don't enter caves with you, ever. Both of them are content to stay above ground, far away from the mutants of the dark depths. And yet, here they are. You mean to tell me they went through the absolute hell of lava and demons that I just went through? Right at my heels the whole time and I never saw them? That's straining believability pretty hard. But I guess it makes sense from a narrative perspective. They need to be kept alive if you choose to stay on the island, and this seems to be the only way it would work. All the same, I take serious issue with the execution on this one. So that's 10 details in Sons of the Forest that make no sense, but we all accept anyway. I hope you enjoyed this video. It was a fun one to come up with ideas for. I love this game. So again, this isn't meant to be me shitting on the game, just pointing out some flaws in certain aspects of logic. Let me know down in the comments if there's anything I missed. And again, consider subscribing and hitting that like button. I'll catch you later.